Is shooter George Zimmerman going broke after raking in a small fortune in online donations? What happened to all his money? And is he now asking the state to pay his legal fees? George Zimmerman out on bail after shooting dead unarmed teen Trayvon Martin back in February. Since he was arrested in April, he's been soliciting funds online. He's currently hiding somewhere in Seminole County, Florida. He says he's afraid for his life and unable to go to work. He's been raking in donations. He's raised more than $250,000 so far. Now, some of it went to paying off credit card bills. This is what his accountant said in court.
They paid to American Express, Capital One, and then a repayment for the money they borrowed before. The total was $11,387.40.
In court, the total amount given for expenses was about $30,000. That left Zimmerman with about $220,000. Then he had to pay $100,000 in bail. So he finally ends up with $120,000. What happened to all that cash? Zimmerman's attorney, Mark O'Mara, says he hasn't gotten a penny so far. And now he says, oh, the state may have to consider his client indigent, in other words, broke, which means that the state would start paying George Zimmerman's legal fees straight out to criminal defense attorney Mark Eiglarsh. Oh, what do you make of all this? The spending. Now, he says in his own defense that he needs to pay for security because he's afraid for his life. Do you buy that argument?
Well, I have no idea what he's spending his money on, and maybe it's that. But here's the bad news for taxpayers here in Florida. If this continues to go the way O'Mara is reporting, we are going to pick up the costs associated with his defense. He had about $250,000. Left apparently is about $50,000, less the amount owed. He's got about $30,000. If they're both not working, him and his wife, that's going to be gone any day. So the inquiry in court by the judge will be, do you currently now have the ability to pay the cost of your defense? The answer is going to be no, and we will have to pay his defense.
Yeah. Now, again, he should have about $120,000 left after court. Obviously, he's got to eat. He's paying to live somewhere, and then there's a security issue. Still, that's a lot of money to go through in just months. Here's some comparisons. $120,000 could buy a new sailing yacht. This is the Hunter 33. It goes for about that much. Or $120,000 could buy 2 new Mercedes E-Class coupes. Most people can't afford one. Or you could buy 7 Rolex watches. We're not being facetious. Obviously, George has spent a lot of money on security. But I think, well, Mark Eiglarsh, should the judge allow him to move out of state or even out of the country possibly so he doesn't have to pay so much for security?
Well, it depends. If the defense can show that by moving out of the state, he'll be able to work, and by working, he'll be able to save enough money to pay for the cost of depositions, investigators, subpoenaing witnesses. These are all out-of-pocket costs that eventually he's not going to have the money for. Then I say, yes, move him wherever he wants to go. He's going to return to court.